This is a Film Stories original podcast.
Welcome to the X-Cast X-Files Podwatch. This is episode 30, where we're going to be talking about season 3 episodes Nisei and 731. I'm hosting again. I'm Andrew Brooker, and joining me again is Mr. Baz Greenland. You alright, mate?
I'm good, thank you.
Good to have you back.
Absolutely.
So we got really lucky. We said on our last episode together, we got really lucky and we had a couple of really good episodes to start our chat with. And this time around, I think we've gotten just as lucky.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I know we talked a lot about Deep Throat and Squeeze last time, and they were good ones. Nisei and 731 actually is my favourite mythology two-part of the whole show.
Really?
I think there are other ones like Anasazi through to Paperclip, which are amazing, and some of the Relics trilogy is definitely really good. But for me, this is just an exciting, fast-paced, revelatory. It's just there's so much in it. I do love. I love everything that ever happens to episode. So it builds on previous mythology stories as well, and maybe it doesn't have quite the big shocks of something like Ascension or say Anasazi, but for me it's just got such an amazing pace to it. I think it's a mythology right at the height of its prime.
I'd agree with you completely. I would probably call it my second favourite mythology double bill after Colony and Endgame.
Which that's also an absolutely great one, yeah.
And I think it's one of those things that, depending on what day I watch either one, it will almost certainly change. Do you know what I mean? They're both excellent double bills, and all four are excellent episodes in their own right.
Definitely. I think the double bills as well, because the three-parters, there's some really great... I mean, I do love 90% of Anasazi through Paperclip. It's such a great game-changing mythology one. And like Ascension has got some, the Dwayne Barry through to One Breath. They are really great ones. But the thing about the three-parters I find in the early ones, there's little bits when it could have been a little bit of padding maybe sometimes. Whereas I think
they flag a little bit, don't they?
Yeah, the two-parters are sharp. And at this point, season 2 and 3 mythology, I think, is basically where it was at. There's some good stuff in 4 and 5, and actually 6 as well. I think midway through 6 with Two Fathers One Son is where the mythology really kind of, I think, wraps up really well, actually. I think that kind of where it should have ended. And season 8 has some good stuff as well, but it kind of is in its own self-contained narrative. But I think what was really great about season 2 and 3, particularly when I watched it back in the early 90s, it was just this chance to see kind of new secrets unfold, and it was just incredibly exciting to incredibly exciting to watch, really. And I think this is, if I was going to say one thing about word to describe these two parts, is it's exciting.
Oh yeah, it's a perfect word to describe them as well. Like I said, they'd gotten to a point where they'd firmly got their feet on the ground with what they were doing. Everyone was comfortable with all the mythology stuff. So here they managed to ramp all of it up, take a lot of it away by the end of it, and they teased the audience perfectly for the 2 hours that these two episodes were on. Proper nail-biting stuff, which is something that a lot of TV shows since have tried to mimic and haven't been able to do. So should we crack on and start talking about these episodes?
Sure.
So to start off with, we're going to talk about Nisei, which is the 9th episode of season 3. It was written by Chris Carter, Frank Spotnitz and Howard Gordon, and directed by David Nutter. Now, at this point, David Nutter I am very aware that I do not talk properly at all. But David Nutter, at this point, had directed Ice and Tombs and Beyond the Sea were all down to him. So there was some pedigree here by the time we got to Nisei.
Oh, definitely. I mean, everyone you talked about, this is one, when they're great. I mean, Chris Carter obviously can have his moments. It can be fantastic stuff, and then some not so great stuff, particularly later on. But, when all three of them together, and obviously, we'll call him Nutter. Nutter. That's a great combination. When they're at the top of the game, which this story is, there's magic there.
Oh, for sure, and they do such a great job. And like you say, Carter didn't always, and still doesn't always, do a fantastic job. But when he's got someone else writing with him, and especially Spotnitz and Gordon, when all three of them are writing together, they're unstoppable. And I think this is the perfect example of that. And they've done a lot of things as well. When you watch them back now, you can see what they were doing. So obviously, like, this episode starts with Mulder watching an alien autopsy video. Now, I remember around this point watching or reading stuff about supposed alien autopsy videos in awful conspiracy theory rags like the X Factor.
Yeah.
You know, stuff like that was everywhere at this point. And I think even at one point, Scully mentions that this is more hokey looking than the one that aired on the Fox network.
Yeah, it's a great in joke. Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
So yeah, it's got a lot of things that were kind of current events that have kind of been rolled into it, but at the same time, it was inspired by, and this explains the title for part 2. But it was inspired by the Unit 731, which was a human experimentation program that the Japanese were running during World War II.
Yeah, it's a nice mirror to Paperclip.
Yes.
You had the Nazis coming over and doing their experimentations, and then you got the Japanese doing their thing as well. And I think it really builds on what you saw in Paperclip and that whole kind of 3-part at the end of season 2 and went into season 3. You know, the fact that they're working on boxcars, when you've had that memorable image of the boxcar with the aliens from the end of Anasazi, and you've now got them in action, zooming around the US while doing all the experiments. It's kind of quite, it really does start to build the mythology even more.
Oh yeah, it gives you dots to connect.
Definitely.
As you go on through, and you're right. The boxcars from the season finale previous, and these ones, and these all tie back into Scully's abduction.
Yeah.
Which it's several threads from the last couple of seasons all being tied up nicely. Maybe.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the nice thing, I'd actually forgot. I do remember that really kind of creepy scene when she goes to the house and all the abductees are there and they pull up the containers, all the chips. It's quite chilling stuff in itself, realizing she's part of a number of women who've been abducted. I've forgotten though that actually they mentioned this cancer thing even here. So Obviously that's a big part of season 4 going into the beginning of season 5.
Yeah.
But I've forgotten how kind of early on they established that not only was she as a result of abduction that she's actually going to die of cancer, which she almost does.
Yeah.
And it's quite exciting because in one sense it's building this whole. It's building on the conspiracy of men basically to experiment with alien DNA technology and create these kind of hybrids, which is that you've seen way back into season 1, particularly the Minor Flask, the season 1 finale. But then you've also got this whole separate thread of Scully almost like coincidentally running into these abductees and starting to kind of go down her path as discovering what is the chip that she took out the back of her neck and and what's her fate essentially and what happened to her. And it's nice that you can, in a way, and whether you believe it or not, you kind of at the end of it she's got her answers. She knows who abducted her and what happened to her over those few weeks.
Yeah, it's one of those things, isn't it? It's something that the mythology for the X-Files was so good at doing, is it did give you those answers. And it even made them believable, but somehow down the line still managed to make you question whether or not it was right. And the cancer thing was perfect for that, especially the way, because that was the season finale, wasn't it? Her cancer.
Yeah, I think the whole thing with the mythology as well is kind of people. It's kind of distorted memory. People think, they never answered anything in the mythology, and actually. I think by the end of, I mentioned Two Fathers, One Son much later on in season 6.
Yeah.
By that point, they pretty much wrapped everything up at that point. They just then, the trouble is, they started new stuff, and it was never quite as good as what came before. But really, the mythology does give you answers, and I think we were teased over a number of years, and every time we had these 2-parters, or the occasional random mythology episode, you learned something new as part of the puzzle. But you did get answers, whether you say believe them or not. And this episode definitely brings a sense of closure to what happened to Scully, while setting up the next stage of her kind of fate, really, which is the cancer.
Absolutely. So, what would you say would be your favourite bit of this episode, then, mate? Just the Nisei episode. We'll move on to 731 in a second.
So, it's a different one, isn't it? I think there's so much. I think possibly. I mean, there were two parts. I think that scene when Scully is with the abductees, and they all put out the containers with the microchips. And the fact that actually what we watch, in a 2 years' time, every single one of them are dead as well. It's quite chilling to watch that scene. And of course, the cliffhanger is fantastic. So you get Mr. X turning up at Sky's apartment. He knows Mulder's in danger, and he's going to jump on the train, and then he jumps and loses the phone. And it's a really exciting cliffhanger, which sets up 731 really well. So I think those two moments are really good. But I think just generally, even I think, as well as the cliffhanger, actually the opening as well, because the opening, it's the first time you kind of probably see an alien, and you get this whole mysterious thing in the mist of this train pulling up and these Japanese scientists, and then you get these masked gunmen coming and killing everyone and zipping up the alien. It's a really exciting, intriguing opening to jumpstart the episode.
Oh, for sure. It's one of those. And just as the title music would kick in, you'd be like, "No, hurry up! Let me see what's going on." And the frustration would be even higher than as you ended up back in Mulder's office. You go, no, let me see what happened.
Yeah,
it is a beautiful way to open an episode.
Yeah,
and I think you're right. The cliffhanger, absolutely amazing. If they made that episode now, it would almost certainly be the mid-season finale, and we'd have to be waiting 2 months to find out what happened.
Yeah, don't get me started mid-season finales. I've written about the whole phenomenon of mid-season finales, and I just don't get it.
They annoy me mainly because I don't like the suspense in a time when we can binge entire seasons of everything. I don't want to wait 2 months for an answer.
Absolutely, and when you watch a whole series, you know exactly you know exactly when the mid-season finale happens. It's never quite as good as it would have been to watch it. Yeah, but that's a whole side discussion, I guess.
Yeah,
you're right. This would have been the mid-season cliffhanger, definitely.
Yeah, I think the Alien Autopsy video is a highlight for me. But again, because now looking back, and I remember people, not everybody, because not everybody thought there was, but I remember discussions of Alien Autopsy videos and things like that. And you look back at it now and you go, I can't believe anybody bought any of that. And it gives me a little giggle every time I watch it. It's probably one of my favourite bits of that episode.
Yeah.
That does, like I said, the cliffhanger moves us on to 731, which, a direct follow-on. Like there's no messing around. It is a proper two-parter. We end Nisei with Mulder jumping onto the train. We start 731 with Mulder in the train.
Yeah. And when I talked about being excited, I think the real excitement is in the second episode. The first one builds and builds and builds to it, and then it really kind of pays off in this one.
Oh, absolutely! It puts threat on top of danger on top of threat on top of danger all the way through. And by the end of it, you're having heart palpitations, hoping that everybody's going to get out all right.
I get. What's interesting as well, though, is that you wait for the next scene. Of course, the pre-title sequence is the mass execution of these alien human hybrids.
Yeah.
Which again is incredibly shocking, but it's kind of this. It broadens it slightly. It's quite a personal journey for Mulder and Scully in the first episode. Me and Mulder was on the quest to find this alien, to find the evidence, and Scully's trying to find her about her abduction, and then suddenly you're dealing with mass experimentations and secret colonies of alien human hybrids, and it kind of really opens up even more, even though at the same time a lot of it is set on a train.
Yeah. I think they've done very well. I was doing a little bit of reading on both the episodes. So Nisei was supposed to be just a one-parter. It was just going to be a single mythology episode, and they got to a point where they'd got an episode's worth of stuff, but hadn't answered any questions, and not even answered the questions they wanted to answer. So it then became the two-parter that we're talking about now. But they pulled in... so Frank Spotnitz on his own wrote the second half, so 731. they pulled in Rob Bowman to do the direction. Previously, he'd finished off Colony and Endgame. They brought him in to direct the Endgame episode as well. And I think you can see a lot of the same style between this one and Endgame, with the threat on top of threat on top of threat on top of threat, just building the tension all the way through the episode. And this guy, when I looked through his IMDb page to see what else he directed and what other episodes he'd done some really good. I mean, he'd done some dodgy stuff. He directed the Lone Gunman pilot. I'm not a fan of the Lone Gunman.
I've only seen a couple. They're one. Like Millennium. I've only seen a few Millennium as well. So I'm actually working my way through Millennium now. But Lone Gunman, I've only seen a couple of those. So it's one of my on my list to watch at some point.
At some point, I hope to go back and watch it and go, okay, yeah, it's all right. You know, get my nostalgia on while I'm watching it. But at the time, I didn't really get it. But he done Sleepless, which is another one of my favourite standalone episodes, which this guy directed. So, he again...
He did the first movie as well, didn't he?
I think he did, yeah.
Yeah. Which actually, I know we're going to be talking about the movie at some point as well, and it's actually I have a lot of love for the movie.
Oh, I do. Again, we keep going back to the Tony's 5 questions of X. When he said, what was your favourite episode, and my actual answer was the movie. My answer, because the movie was, while I'd watched X-Files on and off for years, when the movie was announced, it was my push to do all of the seasons before it came out, and because of the movie, I fell in love with it. And then when I watched the movie, it blew me away.
Yeah, it was a great cinema experience, actually. Yeah, it was quite exciting to watch. But yeah, I guess that's for another time.
I feel we're going to do this a lot.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, so 731 actually, like we say, it does build an awful lot of tension all the way through the episode, and it ends. I have to admit, when you get to the halfway point of the episode, there's a bomb. I'm like, it feels almost normal or a bit too easy.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It doesn't feel like they're trying at that point, but somehow they still manage to make it tension filled.
Definitely. Well, the whole stuff on the train, we'll talk about that. I mean, it's very much this kind of From Russia with Love, Hitchcockian type vibe, particularly with the bad guy who kills his arm, isn't it? The Japanese scientist who experimented on Scully. So he's trying to find him, and it really is this kind of with this kind of hapless conductor who's kind of trying to help Mulder as well, and end up locking them in the boxcar with the alien and the bomb. It's and I think it is kind of great, it's very much this kind of Hitchcock, running through the train, trying to, identifying the dead body, trying to catch the bad guy, and then when he gets to this room and they're trapped together in the room, it does get more exciting, and it kind of, I guess it is a little bit anticlimactic maybe, though it's got the great Mr. X stuff, which we'll talk about in a second, but it is the idea of this kind of they're trapped in a boxcar with an alien in the next room, and this bomb about to explode, which is going to unleash this virus. It's in one sense, the bomb is like, it's only a bomb, but at the same time, it really is raising the tension higher and higher and higher, and you just don't know how they're going to get out of it. Particularly when the guy is trying to kill him as well. This NSA, and this guy is NSA, isn't he? And he's going to try and kill Mulder at the first chance he gets as well, which he nearly does. So it's it's really, really kind of quite exciting. It builds and builds and builds, and you just don't know how it's going to get resolved.
I have to say that one of my favourite bits is when he yells at the conductor after he's found the bomb, and he says, "You need to drop us off somewhere and go away." It's at that point you realise they haven't named the conductor.
No,
he just yells, "Hey, conductor!"
But I love the conductor. He's just kind of happy go. It's this guy. He wants to help, and he's trying to. He's completely out of his depth.
Oh, completely. That guy. If they were going to make an American version of 40 Towers, that dude is Manuel.
Oh god, yeah. It's like man. You imagine, but stick him in the episode 24 with Jack Bauer. That's kind of yeah, definitely. And I think at the end as well. I mean, that's what's great about Mulder. He'll sacrifice himself to save everyone else, and he'll try and save the bomb, but try to save the bomb. He'll try and save everyone else by divert the train into the middle of nowhere, but there's not much you can do. But because I think probably one of my favourite scenes of the whole two-parter really is that bit at the end when he gets attacked as you think he's going to get loose, and then you almost see off shot the NSI goes out and gets shot in the stomach, and Mr. X comes in, rescues Mulder, and carries him in his arms as the train explodes. It's a really really great scene. It's a really good Mr. X moment as well.
Oh, it's a fantastic Mr. X moment. It's probably my favourite of the whole episode as well, because you get that almost confirmation that he might act like he doesn't really care.
Yeah,
but
he does.
He does to the point where because after he gets on the train, he goes through, he walks past Mulder, and goes to check on the alien thing in the back, and decides he hasn't got time to deal with that because he has to save Mulder. And I quite like that you get that little moment where Mulder might not know it, but Mr. X saved him, and we all know it. And whether or not he wants us to know that, we all know that Mr. X now is just a big old softie.
He is, yeah. And of course, he pays for it eventually, but he's great. It's I guess the other stuff as well is this whole thing with the alien hybrids and Scully as well, and that's I think that's when it gets bigger and gets quite harrowing, doesn't it? I think Scully discovering this kind of leper colony and all dead alien hybrids. It's kind of, you've got this very exciting thing going on in Mulder, but you've got this kind of very harrowing scene with the kind of mass execution graves as well, which is kind of almost a bizarre contrast to that.
Well, yeah, it's this kind of awful moment when you've got, let's say, these mass execution graves, but also, Scully, one of our favourite characters, one of our main characters, has just discovered that, as much as we all want to believe that there's aliens and things, she's actually been the victim of human experimentation. Yeah, quite probably by the hands of her government.
Yeah, and of course you get what one we do. You get Donis Davis, First Elder, who's a proper kind of Godfather type character. I love this character. I think my two favourites. I do love Smoky Man, but actually my two favourites are the First Elder and the Well Manicured Man. Yeah, they're both really great characters, and it's really interesting to see Scully with one of the Smoky Man's kind of cohorts here. Yeah. Almost like working together. It's
a really cool moment as well, because he normally when you see him, he's in a dark room, covered in shadow, or usually, obscured by Smoking Man's cigarette. But there is a moment here where he's standing in bright white light.
Yeah.
Almost like an angel, and that moment is absolutely beautiful. It's absolutely amazing.
Oh, probably just got to mention Agent Pendrell and his love for Scully as well.
Yes.
It's a story when he's introduced as well, and he adores him from the start. He doesn't get anywhere, and it's quite sad. It's quite sad to watch Pendrell knowing what happens to him as well.
Oh, bless him! He trips over his words as well, doesn't he?
Keep it up yourself.
It's so cringeworthy.
I know.
You got your head in your hands, shaking, going, "Oh, you poor bastard."
Yeah. There you go. Yeah, it's just a really really great two-parter.
Oh, it is, and like we said at the top of the episode, it's one of my favourites, second only to Colony and Endgame. Which for me that's pretty high standing. Doesn't matter which way you cut it.
Yeah, it's my favourite. I think you're right. Colony and Endgame is one of the best as well, and they're both really great, really exciting, really revelatory. Two-parters as well, so yeah.
They always tend to be ones that get forgotten as well. Like, I forget them myself when I talk about X-Files.
I think mythology. This one, I think the X-File tournament we've been doing, they haven't quite got as high as I'd hoped to get. I think, but these are amazing episodes. I think they get a bit lost between the season finales, I think.
Yeah, I think they do, and I think they are overshadowed by things like Colony and Endgame, which are genuine fan favourites. Everybody loves those.
Yeah.
And they do. And it is sad when they kind of go into the background because of things like that. But then, you get to sit and watch them twice in one day because you're about to record a podcast on them, and you forget just how great they are.
Yeah, definitely.
So I think that wraps us up for episode 30 of the X-Files Podwatch. Come join us on Twitter. We are at the X_cast, and join us on the Facebook group. We are the X-Files Basement and X-Files Podcast Fan Group. Tomorrow's episode is going to be, I believe, Revelations and War of the... I can't pronounce that. Cockroaches.
The cockroaches one, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a good one.
It is a great one, but I can never pronounce it.
Probably both because you've done it and recorded it.
So, come join us tomorrow for that, and until next time, trust no one.